This is the Loaded Radio Podcast.
Hey, how you doing? It's Scott Penfold, and this is another edition of the Loaded Radio Podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Great to have you here. And a good show this week. Yes, man, I am going to be talking to two guests. Yeah, man, going to be pretty packed as, first off, I'll be speaking to the one and only Michel Langevin, longtime drummer for the band VOIVOD. They have the new album called Morgöth Tales, which is out now, and it features Jason Newsted as well as a guest on there, which is kind of cool, having him back in the fold. So I'll be talking to Michel about that, and as well tons more. And then in the second half of the podcast this week, I'm going to be speaking with the one and only new wave of British heavy metal frontman himself, John Gallagher from RAVEN, as they've got the new album, All Hell's Breaking Loose. Album number 15 for the new wave of British heavy metal legends that would be RAVEN. So looking forward to speaking with John as well on the second half of the podcast. Now, don't forget, if you are listening to this podcast via YouTube, give us a like and subscribe to the channel. Give us a follow and you can get all the info and all the stuff. As well, you can listen to this podcast wherever you get your podcasts and at loadedradio.com, and as well via the Loaded Radio app. It's completely free to download. Get it for yourself via loadedradio.com or wherever you get your apps, okay? But let's get down to this, man. First off, my first guest this week is the longtime drummer, founding member of Canadian progressive thrash band VOIVOD. And he's been with us on the show before, and great to have him back again. I'm talking about Michel Langevin. Away, how you doing?
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are things with you? You feeling well? Things are all right?
Oh, yeah. We returned from a 7 weeks long tour on Saturday night, but I'm already at the office at work.
Are you back to work at it already? Yeah, that's good, man. That's great.
Yeah, I have a whole lot of interviews still.
Yeah, well, I can imagine. I mean, it's a big thing, man. It's 40 years of VOIVOD. I mean, how does that feel?
Oh, it feels really great. I very recently celebrated my 60th birthday on stage in Lyon when we opened for Testament, and they brought me a cake on stage, and I mean, it's unbelievable that we're still going so strong after 40 years, and I can still play thrash metal at 60 years old.
That's pretty awesome, right? Let's talk about Morgöth Tales, the album. Now, a lot of people, I guess, would be, I mean, even still just finding out about this project. Maybe explain, what is Morgöth Tales, the album? It's
really an overview of our career over 40 years. So there is re-recording. There are re-recordings of more obscure tracks that we barely played live or maybe never, and so that was the intention, and so we re-recorded "Condemned to the Gallows," the first song we recorded back. It's the first song we wrote in '83, and it was on Metal Massacre 5, and so and for this year we wanted to have a new song to finish the album, so we wrote a song, and while touring with Opeth last year in November and December in Europe, we wrote it in the tour bus and hotel rooms and such, and we recorded this album early this year in January. And it was quite a thrill. It was a huge challenge. It seemed like a huge challenge to me, but it went really smoothly, and it was very exciting.
Yeah, well, you'd mentioned "Condemned to the Gallows." I think it's a really interesting story about how you guys went and had to find the lyrics.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when we realized there were no existing lyrics online, and there was no lyric sheets in the vinyl, and oh man, we didn't know what to do, because with the accent and recording of Dan, we couldn't figure out what Snake was saying except from evil there and treason there, and so. Yeah, we tried to isolate the vocals with AI, and it sounded like an alien language. And so when Snake mentioned that he could reach out to his sister so she could go to his mother's place to try to track down the original lyrics he had written on the school paper, and we were kind of like, long shot, but it took 2 minutes, and it was very well classified and everything. And so when she sent the cell phone photos of the lyrics, we were like, wow, we can actually re-record that song. It was an amazing thrill.
And it's really cool because, I listened to the new version of it and I love it. You can definitely tell it's got that early 80s kind of feel to it, but it's, of course, is redone to modern day. I think it sounds awesome.
The only thing I was not able to replicate was the drum roll at the beginning of the song. And back in on the early recording, it sounded like a mixture of hyperactivity and deficit of attention. Right. and I was not able to replicate that, so we sampled the original drum roll.
Oh, really?
Yes. we asked the permission. We got a permission from Metal Blade to do so, and so it's a very great intro to the album, I think.
I think so as well. Now, is this album really meant to be a celebration of the 40 years thus far for VOIVOD?
Yes, definitely. And so that's why we decided to also cover the Eric Forrest years and Jason Newsted years. So we invited both of them to be part of this album, and which is great because these are the Rise and Rebel Robot are tracks that we never play live. So it was a great opportunity, this project, to really refresh the set list. And so on the tour we just did, we got Jason to come on stage with us in Fort Lauderdale. And we got Eric to come on stage with us at the Hellfest in France, because he lives in France now. So, great moments.
Yeah, now I did want to bring up that Fort Lauderdale show in a second, but how did Jason get back involved with the album? You guys have always stayed tight with Jason, is that right?
Oh, yeah. We... I'm always in touch with Jason and Eric as well. And it was during the Opeth tour in Europe in November and December that we started to try to put together this project with while writing a new song. We're trying to figure out what we were gonna re-record. And when we thought about Rise and Rebel Robot, we thought about inviting them to be part of the project, and they got excited, both of them. And of course, we had to do it from a distance in respective studios. And so I'm really glad they were able to do it. And it was an even greater thrill to have them on stage with us at two different shows.
Yeah. Now, well, first off, the Fort Lauderdale show, was that like he just heard you were coming to town, picked up the phone and gave you a call, or how did that sort of come about?
Well, he, at first, of course, I got in touch with him to do the re-recording of Rebel Robot, and he was a bit nervous because he hadn't played bass for a while, but he really, really wanted to do it. And so later on, when he heard that we were playing a Fort Lauderdale show, he reached out to me saying that he was playing the same club the week after with his metal band, and that he would love to come on stage with us and to play Rebel Robot and VOIVOD, the song VOIVOD. And of course, we were totally into it, and it was a great experience. I love Jason. He's a very energetic person with a great vibe, and I really miss him. So it was really great to have him on stage again. And the same with Eric at the Hellfest, which is a very prestigious festival. So it was really nice to have Eric to come on stage to sing Rise with us. And so hopefully whenever we are in their hoods, we'll be able to do the same experience,
Yeah, that's great too. Hellfest must have been such an incredible reunion. Now with him, was it the same thing? He just heard you were going to be playing Hellfest and he reached out? Is that kind of how it worked?
Yes, of course. When we got the Hellfest offer, I reached out to Eric and asking if he was willing to do Rise with us, and he was totally into it. And plus, he was already there with another band, so it was everything lined up really properly. It was very it was a great moment again. VOIVOD is a big family, and it's fun to meet up once in a while there and there around the planet, because we're pretty spread out.
Yeah. Well, it would be really cool. It'd be great to see, maybe VOIVOD at some point go out on the road with Jason's metal band Newsted. I mean, he's got Newsted back together, I think now, doesn't he?
He did that one show in Fort Lauderdale, and it was sold out, and I heard it went really well. So I don't know what his plans are really. He always has at any given time many musical projects going, and sometimes he plays acoustic guitar as well. So yeah, I don't know.
Now let's talk about the title track for Morgöth Tales. You'd mentioned that sort of came together on the Opeth tour. Tell me about that song in particular.
During the Opeth tour, we started writing in the tour bus, and we tried to again keep the spirit of VOIVOD intact, but we do have a new fusion metal twist to it and psychedelic, and we are experimenting with different layers of sounds. And so we were demoing that track. I had to program drums on we all synced on Logic Pro and trying to do our parts at home or on tour and making demos, and it really morphs into VOIVOD material when we get into the studio at RadicArt Studio together, of course. But it's fun to demo tracks on the road, and so we're trying to have this song representing all eras of VOIVOD with the new the new lineup as well. And we in Switzerland. We had while touring with Opeth, we had a surprise visit of Tom Warrior, and during soundcheck, and so it was we had a great conversation and about the good old days and all that. So we took a photo on the floor of the club in front of the stage. And Opeth posted the photo on their Facebook page, and somebody wrote Morgöth Tales under it. I thought it was brilliant, and I was surprised. I had never thought of it actually, and I actually told Tom about it. Like, I hope you don't mind that we will use the Morgöth Tales title for our next album and all that, and because it was a wink to Morgöth Tales, famous EP of his, and with Celtic Frost. And anyhow, I thought it was a great idea to call the album this way, because it really covers the whole career. I don't remember who wrote it online, but he deserves a salute from me for sure.
The album was recorded and mixed by Francis Perron as well. Maor Appelbaum is in there as well, producing. Was mastering. You guys self-produced this. How was it working with those guys?
Oh, now we have a great team. We started working with Francis during the Post Society EP, and we've developed a great relationship with him. And his studio is out of town, out of Montreal, but it's a great way for us to only work on whatever we are working on at that specific time, and no distraction. And so we even did, during the pandemic, some online shows there where we revisited Damage and Hat Trust and Nothing Face. It really helped for us to develop a sound for that Morgöth Tales album, and a quick sound. And anyhow, we did Post Society, The Wake, which was very elaborate, and Synchro Anarchy during the pandemic, and now Morgöth Tales. We did the Ultraman EP as well at his studio. So I think we have we really developed during the pandemic a great way of working, because we had to write the album while socially distancing. So that's how we were able to really find a way to work with Logic Pro, where we can at least demo tracks on the road or at home. And I think because of that, the releases will be less apart as well, you know?
Now, it's been 40 years for VOIVOD, like we were talking about, and it's a wonderful way, I think, to celebrate it with Morgöth Tales. What's coming up for the next 10 years for VOIVOD? Is there any plan? What's going to be happening?
Well, right now, we have a very busy schedule with the 40th anniversary tour. So just came back from a US tour, and then flew directly to Europe. So like 7 weeks long. In July, we'll have one festival in Quebec, but it's pretty mellow. But in August, we're going back to Europe for more festivals and Scandinavian club shows. We'll play the Wacken Festival as well. It's huge in Germany. And So in the September, we have a whole bunch of Quebec shows and one show in Brazil, a festival. In October, November, December, and January, we have a bit of a break where we will write a new album. But I know that early next year, the touring schedule will start over again. So we try to keep it going at all times, really.
That's awesome to hear. And you know what? I know a lot of people are very excited and very happy that VOIVOD is still here with us and still doing a fantastic job. I mean, I saw you guys playing last summer, and I really, really enjoyed that show too. So I'm really happy that there's so much going on for VOIVOD right now.
Yeah, we have a really great chemistry in the band, and so the shows are great, and we are winning Junos for our new albums, and
I know.
So we're enjoying a great momentum where we are more popular than ever. So we're definitely gonna try to surf on that as long as we can, you know. And in terms of playing thrash metal for the next few decades, I don't know, man. But I mean, live, live, it's gonna get harder and harder as years go by, for sure. But at least I think we're gonna be able to record material forever. You know, we can always go into a RadicArt Studio and put out new albums. But I definitely, you know, I've been taken great care of myself for the past 25 years or so. It must have been, we were on a hiatus after a crash in Germany in 98, and I went to see Whitesnake, and I saw Tommy Aldridge doing like 90 minutes of double kick drums, and I thought, if we are to restart VOIVOD, and I want to be that guy in the future, I need to exercise, eat well, stop partying, so I can still kick ass, you know, at 60 right now, and I think I'm definitely I'm aiming to do another 10 years on the road with VOIVOD for sure.
That's phenomenal. Michel, away. It's been great talking to you again, my friend. And I look forward to seeing VOIVOD out there on the road some more. And thank you for taking the time to talk to us today so much.
Thanks for having me.
Anytime. Take care. All the best.
Take care. Cheers.
And there he is. There is Michel Langevin from VOIVOD, longtime drummer for that band. And don't forget, you can now get Morgöth Tales, reworked classic stuff from VOIVOD, which is pretty damn cool, dude. The way that they've done with some of their old tracks, like Condemned to the Gallows and Thrashing Rage, Killing Technology, and of course the new song, the title track, Morgöth Tales itself. Check that out. It's really damn cool, man. It's such a great band. I'm really happy that they're still going. But it's Scott Penfold here with you on the Loaded Radio podcast, and I'm now being joined by an absolute icon when it comes to the new wave of British heavy metal. These guys been doing this since 1974. They are part of the first wave of the new wave of British heavy metal. And of course, I'm talking about the band RAVEN. 15 studio albums in, and the new one is called All Hell's Breaking Loose. Classic sounding RAVEN, man. And the front man from that band, John Gallagher, joins us right now on the Loaded Radio podcast. John, how you doing, man?
Hello. I'm doing good, man.
Oh, great. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today on Loaded Radio. Appreciate that. I do want to talk about the 15th album, of course, All Hell's Breaking Loose. It's out now. Some of the tracks I've heard off it so far, I've heard the majority of the album, but some that stand out for me would definitely be Go for the Gold. I wanted to ask you about that track in particularly and where that song came from for you.
That was just balls to the wall crazy riff that came to me. Just, you know, hell for leather, one of those crazy things. And the lyrics, that phrase came out, and that's usually what happens, like lyrically, if you have just some kind of phrase and it goes, what does that really mean? Well, you know, obviously go for the gold. It's, you know, it's got all those Olympic connotations, but it's just about, you know, bettering yourself, going that one step further, pushing that little bit harder. And once I had that, it's like, you know, it basically started to write itself. You know, you've heard this theory of you need to put 10,000 hours of work into anything before you can begin to think of mastering it.
Right.
So the first line is 10,000 hours was never enough.
Right. Makes sense.
Yeah. It's like,
is that commonly how Raven writes songs, though? Just sort of like that, whatever just sort of comes along?
yeah, I mean, it comes from the music. It comes from the riffs. We'll all write riffs. And that's what was special about this album is that, Mike Heller, our relatively new drummer, was in at the ground floor because the previous album, Metal City, he joined and we'd already written the songs.
Yeah.
So, he put his flavor in on it. But from this one, he was able to contribute ideas from the beginning and be part of that. I don't like this part. Why don't we try that part? And, we all get elbows in there and start pulling stuff apart and making it better, So that really helped.
So Mike is actually part of the band, though, when it comes to the creative process. Now, have all drummers always been like that with you guys, or is it mostly just like the Gallagher brothers and someone else?
Yeah, absolutely. It has to be. In a three-piece band, there's absolutely no room for passengers. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, Rob, Wacko Hunter back in the day, huge part of what we did. Joe Hasselvander, huge part of what we did. And Mike Heller is following the tradition. He's a huge part of this album, absolutely.
Now, he's been with the band since 2017. How do you find playing with Mike live, and how do you find playing with him in the studio? How do you find him all around as a part of Raven?
He's a huge asset. He's very very positive, always bursting with ideas, killer work ethic. He'll work literally until he drops. And he engineered the album in the studio. And we've worked, obviously, with a lot of engineers, and I don't think I've worked with anyone with the stamina he's got, because we have ridiculous stamina. We will literally go until we drop, and he's right there with it, We'd arbitrarily go, okay, we're going to stop after working 12, 14 hours.
Yeah.
We could have gone on longer, but of course, it's diminishing returns at that point. So.
Sure.
No, and Mike just lives to play drums, loves to get out there and go crazy. And I think he's really relishing the freedom he's got with playing with us, because we really emphasize that, hell for leather, try stuff, improvise. And, it's never played the same way twice. And that's always fun, because it keeps all of us on our toes. It means we all listen. We have to, in order to, get from point A to point B. And it makes it fun, especially in this world of, people posing along to backing tapes and what have you. We're up there doing the high wire act, and we love it.
So Raven would never even attempt backing tracks or backing tapes at any live event. Was that correct?
What would be the point? What would be the point of that? That's like wearing a ball and chain. It doesn't add anything. It ties you down to something else. And it's a long, long argument. And yes, there's bands I loved who have used it. Could you imagine Baba O'Reilly or Won't Get Fooled Again being as cool without those tracks? No. But it's just something that doesn't appeal. We like the idea of setting those parameters. It's the three of us. What can you do within those parameters,
Is this something that you think is almost dishonest when it comes to music fans?
I think it is. And in certain cases, I mean, obviously, like, say, again, using The Who as an example, I mean, you could see the tape machine. It was obvious.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, this is a part of the song you heard on the record, and we're going to take it somewhere else, as it were. They would improvise within those parameters. It's great. But once you start getting into, the extra backing vocals, and then the 10,000 chorus and the extra guitars, and you get to the situation where there's people miming to those tracks, that's the bridge too far. Augmentation is maybe a gray area, but once you're getting people, dancing around pretending to play, no, that's BS with a capital B and a capital S.
Understood. And even just looking at the lineup of the band over the years, there have been countless drummers in the band. Well, why do you think that is?
Well, there really hasn't. I mean, there was countless drummers in the band up until 1979.
Okay.
So, we had Paul Sheriff, a kid from school. We have Dave, what's his name, who played with us for one date. And then we had Mike Kenworthy, who played with us for 2 years. And then we had Sean Taylor, who's in Satan now, who played with us for 2 years. And then we had Rob for 7. And then we had Joe for 30. And now we've had Mike for 7. So in a coming up for a 50-year career, that's not too bad.
Right. You were just mentioning coming up on a 50-year career. How have you been able to work with your brother for so long? Do you two get along? Are you mates as well as fellow musicians?
We've signed a contract that we can't kill each other.
Good.
You know, that sibling rivalry stuff kind of went out the window once we started playing instruments. And if we ever got upset, we would just take it out on the guitars or the amplifiers and bash them around a bit, you know. Mm-hmm. No, we're obviously different people, but we have a common goal and a common passion. And it's great because, you know, the stuff he's better at, he takes care of, and the stuff I'm better at, I take care of, and we complement each other, you know, musically as well as every other way, you know.
Certainly. And the one thing I really love about Raven, too, is that the band also approaches things almost with a certain degree of tongue-in-cheek humor to it. How important is that to the band?
It's important. It's part of what we do. I mean, we have a lot of fun. We have a very up attitude. There's a lot of metal bands have a very dour, you know, it's dark, it's depressing, it's evil, and we're going to continue to be miserable. We're not like that at all. Our music's very uplifting. It's, it's aggressive. It can be very heavy. It can, it has all those things, but it's done with a twinkle in the eye. And, I look back at, say, like the video we did when we were on Atlantic for On and On. Now, a lot of the videos, probably all the videos that came out in that time period from the metal bands were hilarious. Right. But ours was hilarious by design. That was the difference.
And even just looking back at the career, Raven, you guys have shared the stage and even influenced some of the biggest names in metal. I mean, even including like Ozzy Osbourne, Metallica, countless others. Do any particular experiences commonly come to mind for you when you look back at this almost 50-year career?
Yeah, I mean, we've worked with some of our heroes for sure. Obviously, Ozzy. We were very lucky to do 4 dates on the Blizzard of Oz tour. That was the original lineup with Bob Daisley, Lee Kerslake, and Randy Rhoads. So that was quite an experience for young lads like us. We got to play with Whitesnake when they had Ian Pace and John Lord, who are absolute all-time heroes. And we were like, they're in the dressing room next to us, and the door opened, and those 2 guys walked in and were absolute gentlemen and took their time to talk to us and listen to our stupid questions. And it really, it went in the bank. It's like, if we ever get anywhere near where those guys are, this is how you treat people around you. You act normal, and they're just awesome people. And just about everyone we've worked, Judas Priest, fabulous. Motorhead, we did many gigs with Motorhead. Lemmy was such a character and so funny.
I can imagine.
Our famous Lemmy story is playing with them in Rochester, New York, which funnily enough was promoted by Harvey Weinstein.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah.
That's right. Before he got to film, he was producing Brown. That's right.
Yeah, long before the movies. Yeah. Where the dressing room was the kitchen. And we do the idiot check at the end of the night to make sure nobody's left anything behind. And in the so-called dressing room, which was the kitchen, was this huge walk-in freezer, and the door opens and there's Lemmy with a box, and on the box is written pita bread, and he's standing there. We're like, what are you doing? And he goes, well, you've got to steal something, haven't you? He walks away with a pita bread.
That's great.
So it's moments like that, and luckily 99.9% of the people you work with, the other bands, everyone's got a similar motivation, similar passion, and are similarly, decent human beings. There's only 1 or 2 idiots, and everyone knows who they are, so we don't give them airtime,
Understood. Well, I thought it was really cool that you guys shared the stage with Metallica recently in Hollywood, Florida for the Zazula concert, memorial concert. How was that experience for you guys?
That was fantastic. That was such a great day. When we were recording, because we did the album at Mike's place in Los Angeles, and of course, Metallica HQ's just up the road in the Bay Area. And we got in touch and said, can we shoot some video discussion with James about the Kill 'Em All for One tour? Because it's the 40th anniversary coming up, and all this. James was like, yeah, absolutely, I want to do that. So we went up, talked to them. It was so good. He was, really, really cool. And at the end, it just said, if you got any opening slots, we're available. And he said, well, we got the show coming up in Florida. It hasn't been announced yet. Let me see what I can do. And good as his word, they got in touch and said, we're doing it. It's going to be a tribute to John and Marsha, and we'd love you guys to be part of it. I mean, how cool was that? And it worked out perfect because it was right at the tail end of our tour last year. So we just drove like maniacs down from Atlanta, down to Fort Lauderdale, and boom. Their crew took care of us, good as gold. We got to hang out with the guys for a long time, and it was a great show for us. It was awesome. And for obviously a great cause, and for two people that changed their lives and changed our lives. So that was very nice.
What do you think of today's modern metal bands, and maybe even like all the different genres they've got for metal? Do you like modern day metal today?
Well, there's two genres to me. There's good, and then there's shit. I get fed up with genres. Someone has to describe their music by saying it's post-grindcore, ex-grunge, speed metal, thrash, death, black. Come on. I prefer to listen to it. And if I start hearing things that were ripped off bands that existed 40, 50 years ago, after a while, it's like, I'm liking bands that they'll take some of the old stuff and they'll kind of put their own spin on it. So there's a bunch of young bands that are obviously influenced by the new wave of British heavy metal. Like our pals Night Demon, and then there's Wolf and a bunch of European bands who are very cool. And, that's interesting. That's cool. I like bands like Rival Sons, who have got a lot of 60s influences, but they just write great songs and they can play. That's kind of more important than anything,
John, thank you so much for taking the time today. It has been such an honor speaking with you, and I can't wait to see you back here in North America. It's going to be great.
Very good, mate. Thank you so much.
There he is. That's John Gallagher from Raven. The name of the new album is All Hell's Breaking Loose, and certainly suitable for a band like Raven, and very, very cool to have John here on the show. A great show this week, man. Just shoots by. But thanks again going into Away from VOIVOD, and as well to John Gallagher from Raven. Don't forget to check out loadedradio.com for all your hard rock and metal news, as well as a 24-hour radio station, which is broadcast live complete with on-air personalities and different shows. And also, don't forget to check out other editions or other episodes of this Loaded Radio podcast at loadedradio.com or via the Loaded Radio app or wherever you get your podcasts, okay? I'm Scott Penfold, and we'll talk to you again next week on an all-new edition of the Loaded Radio podcast. Talk to you then.
Loaded Radio.